Okay, got it. Yeah, I wanted to start with that, meet Lynn Luby and Heather is in. This will be her last meeting, I assume, because she was going to be busy for the summer anyway. So, yeah, I wanted
Pop in to see what you guys are doing. I still have property in Thompson, so I guess I'm still,
well,
part
yeah,
of the town.
you're welcome to sit in when you're around. It's it'll be good to see you. I do want to thank you for the job you've done for, was it about a year and a half?
Yep, just about.
I lose track of time.
Join a committee instead. Always a good idea.
All right, let's start out with the approval of minutes for April. If anybody said, go ahead.
Joanne will make a motion to accept April.
Okay, do I have a second?
Couldn't
I'll
find any
second that.
Okay, Charlie seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, any opposed? Any discussion? We're all set. Minutes are accepted. Let's go to May. I'll take a motion to accept the May minutes.
I will, Joanne.
Okay, Joe's on a roll.
Yes, and no mistakes. They would look beautiful.
Yeah, I thought they both looked good too. Second, anybody?
I'll second Santos.
Okay, Brian, B. Santos seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
okay, have a little lag. Any opposed? Okay. May minutes are now history. How about treasurer, Joe?
Yep. The available budget, we have $10,007.56 available.
So just to be clear, guys, this is your last meeting of the fiscal year. So, and I don't have the agenda in front of me, whether it is on the agenda or not, you're going to have to discuss what to do with the rest of those funds in terms of disbursement for the next 7 days.
Well, last month we had 6,000 that was reserved for match grants, match for grants.
Yes, and I made a point of reaching out
6,000
to
of that.
yeah, I made a point to reach out to the granting organization because they hadn't made their announcements yet. And they still haven't made their formal announcements, but they were able to confirm we are not an awardee. So that 6,000 is now released from that commitment. So you got to decide what to do with it.
And okay, well, all right, well.
I was hoping to have that answer back by the end of May, which was their original time frame. So now it's been compressed.
And how about money that we were holding on to for the village?
Well, the original encumbrance still exists, whatever's left. So that's separate from your fiscal year budget because that encumbrance is already set aside.
Okay.
Is it possible to say that we are going to encumber that in 65 Main via marketing or construction? Is that a possibility? Can we do that?
I was thinking about that earlier today, Brian, as a possibility. So when you make an encumbrance, it has to be to a vendor, not to a project.
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah, I know it.
So the only way we
How
can
about
really
an
do
unknown
that,
vendor?
well, no, the only way we could really do that I would envision is to encumber it back to Silver Petricelli with the presumption that we'd be moving on with more
Yeah, with the rest of the design.
or with construction administration. But either way, you're talking about maybe a quarter of what either one of those activities would entail.
Yeah, I'm just turning to you for
Let me
strategy
take a
here.
quick look at the,
Because what ultimately will happen here is it just goes back to the general fund, right? I mean, so we would just lose the money if we didn't vote one way or another.
Yeah,
I
You
can't
could-
think of anything else that, except for that bicycle repair stand that we had talked about setting money aside for and haven't already moved forward with it, except for what was just said.
so that is in your next fiscal year budget. Because
Yeah.
the budget passed, there were no additional cuts made. The, what am I looking for here? Oh, the agenda. The cuts that were made in the round after the first budget failed, was we gave up the intern as a sacrificial lamb, so to speak. So. Yeah, so
Is-
you guys can, in the interest of being faithful to the agenda, why don't we put that aside until new business? So you can
Okay.
get through the rest of the beginnings of the agenda.
Sounds good.
okay. Yeah. Anything I have is covered in the rest of the agenda. We get to update on businesses, and you saw the mail, we had four new adoption of trade name. I don't know why La Framboise applied for an adoption of trade name, unless it's a different person within the company. Because Brian Lafredo had asked about that too, and I don't know. I just pick up the paperwork.
I mean, it's still a business,
Yeah,
it's still called the Framboys, right? So I didn't understand that one either.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I pick up the paperwork. It's there unless somebody's name got added to it or.
Or maybe they're branching out into another field of the well drilling, and that's feel that they need to apply for that.
I thought they already did that, but
Yeah, I can call Paul the Framboys over there and ask him if you guys want me to.
well, it doesn't. I mean, from our standpoint, it doesn't really matter. It's just
Curiosity.
wondering. Paul and Eric. Yeah, curiosity.
Yeah, I'll ask him on the QT. I speak with Paul
Paul.
rather often, so I'll ask him on the QT when I'm on the phone with him.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's just nice to know how things work, how we get new businesses in town that are based in New York. And, we've asked about things like that. Yeah, in addition, I see the T-Rex is open for business. They've had some pretty good crowds there. And the store at Quadic, the old Coach's Corner, is open.
Well, it just opened this weekend.
Yeah, well, last weekend, I think.
Ice cream,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's the
Yeah, he had a
store
soft
Glad it
open
was-
last weekend. Yeah, for ice cream. Last weekend, soft opening. I don't know if he's fully open now.
I
Yeah,
wanted to
I
see,
hear that they're stocking the store. It was not stocked last week.
That's correct.
correct.
Anybody else have anything concerning the businesses or updates?
For whatever it's worth, she wasn't on the list, but above Fournier's place is leased.
Oh, really?
It is, and she's actually coming in front of planning and zoning on Monday, I believe. She is on the agenda. So I expect you'll see a trade name certificate for her probably in the next one then. Yeah, gonna be a small brewery.
Really?
Mhm. Just a brewery to start, no in-house food service.
Yeah.
Where will that be?
In the spot that was Jill and G's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan? We could have a mixer there.
Yeah, the woman works for me, actually. She's a part-time office assistant.
Oh,
Oh,
all right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Alright.
instantly thought the same thing, Yacino, actually, and mentioned it to Dan at the at the last TBA meeting, that might be a nice spot.
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds great. Yeah, TBA membership. Last month we had reported 67 members and it was really 66 because somebody had promised Dan that they would join and they did not. So we're hovering at 66. And as far as the mixers, the next one will be at the Pit Stop Pub on July 18th. And the business of the month was SP Digital Services, Stephanie Pratt. So that should be up on the town hall sign.
And it is.
Okay. Dan, do you have anything regarding the TBA or membership?
I don't think so. You covered it.
Okay.
The mixer on July 18th is gonna be fun. It's gonna spill over into trivia night. So it's gonna be, you guys should all come out and check it out. It's gonna be a good night.
I used to be good with trivia. Now I'm on a 15-minute delay for any question you ask me. The brewery sounds better. All right, citizens' comments. Do we have any? We have, see, I'm looking at the board. We have no citizens except Heather will soon be. I have nothing for old business. New business, we can talk about that budget money. Yeah, I can't think of who else what other company we could encumber it to.
All right, so riddle me this. If we motion to encumber that to Silver Petroselli for $10,007 and we don't use all the money, does it still just go back to the general fund in the next fiscal year? Or
So
the current fiscal year?
So the encumbrance, the reason that you would encumber would be to keep it from rolling into the general fund as the fiscal year rolls. Now, in the past, the encumbrances were allowed to ride for quite some time. The finance director has indicated that that is not best practice and that it's supposed to be, I want to say within the first quarter after the year rolls. Now we might have some leeway because Silver Petrocelli is potentially being attached to an ongoing project. And if it's the full 10, that's almost half of what they would be asking for either construction administration or the new set of construction documents. And as we know, it's the subject of a grant that I'm writing. I could also show that as municipal match. Although it kind of messes up the resolution that I had passed, but that's sort of neither here nor there. Oh, no, it doesn't actually, because I'm just showing it as match. So actually it doesn't mess it up because it doesn't change the amount I'm asking for. So I would say that is definitely an option. I had two thoughts, and Dan, I'm going to toss this one out to you too. The other, going back to the idea of trying to get the 11th Village kickstarted, is to choose to encumber it to a contractor to finish those sheds. There's already the money that's encumbered to the school. We can't do anything about that. But Dan, I would offer that as a possibility, but you're the only person we can contact in such a short time. Now there's a potential conflict appearance there that I don't really care for. But these are the things that.
Yeah, that one's a slippery slope, and no offense to Dan, that one's definitely a slippery slope.
It's not even clear that he would want it, but I'm just spitballing here.
What if we did something like, we have a few days. What if we went to like the Meadowbrook people, we have a handyman. I'm trying to think of who else in the TBA we have a few days we could approach somebody.
Yeah, and also I'll mix in a third one. You and I have spoken about this in the past, but the gazebo,
It's already
Down
being
in the
taken
park.
care of by rec.
that's already, oh, okay, all right, very good. Okay,
Yep. Yeah, they put money aside. It's already been power washed, I believe. And
okay,
Leven C said, I believe that somebody's gonna go in and replace those soffits.
Oh, yeah.
I see.
We got another person in the TBA that would actually probably be really good for working on those sheds. Dave, Chaplain or something like that. DC's clean, is that? did I
Oh,
get
yeah,
that right? DC?
Chamberlain, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a few days.
But you really you should really be doing it in a vote. I will tell you that of those two possibilities, my preference is to encumber to Silver Petrocelli. However, it's you guys' preference that matters. So if your preference is to spend a few days finding a carpenter / contractor type to finish those 3 sheds, that's fine. But this is what I do not want to get caught in. A local guy who's not invested in the project, putting me in the same position I was in for over a year with, I've got the
Yeah.
funds encumbered to him, and then I can't get him to work on it,
yeah,
right? Because we're not bidding on it.
Right.
yeah, where we know 65 Main is going to, at least has the greatest chance of continuing, right? So
well,
I'll
what do
make
you
that motion to encumber $10,007 to Silver Petrocelli for 65 Main.
Actually, before you make the motion on the amount, Joanne, on the budget sheet, is that 10,000 the full budget amount remaining? Because it should be whatever is not including the recording secretary money.
Yeah, that's the full budget, 10,007.
Yeah, it's the bottom number, 10,007.
All right, so let me go back and look at that.
There was a recording secretary already,
Yeah, I think it's already established in there.
Well, it shouldn't be for this month already, though?
Yeah, but if it's in the fiscal year, it's in the fiscal year, and you don't want to accidentally not be able to pay either Heather or Lynn. So
Right,
let
no,
me,
that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't, I wouldn't think it's already deducted because we had not had the meeting yet.
that's right, that's why I'm saying, well, I think what the line item is just the original expended so far this year and available. Actually, there's still $900 available for recording secretary, so.
Yeah, I thought it was the last time I looked at it, I thought it was a separate line item.
Yeah, it is, but 900
It
is
is.
part of the 10,000.
it is. So,
Oh, okay.
and in fact, there's the EDC intern, I think the Jaden is still being paid out of that too. So hang on one second, let me do the math.
Yeah, and there is a line item for 933 for the intern.
Yep, that's still available too.
Yeah, so really, it's not 10,007, it is 10,000. Oops. 7.56 minus 909.56 minus 8,165 even.
And I so motion.
I'll
No,
second,
no,
I'll second
hold
that
on.
for purposes
No.
of discussion.
Guys, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, so what you did here was deduct recording secretary and intern for this month because it's not on this paper. Right?
Right. That's the amount that's the amount available in those 2 line items through the end of the fiscal year, which is next week. I am assuming that there are still payments going to be applied against that. So you don't want to include that in your 10,007. So
Right,
it's,
so it would come 8165.
yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Mhm.
Okay, And I just had one question before Santos makes the motion. And I just wanted to ask Dan, since the TBA is gonna have a bigger stake in the village. What do you think? Are you okay with the money going to the other company? Not to the village?
Well, I mean, it was nice that would be a nice idea to give some money to be able to get those things cleaned up if we want it to be successful. I mean, that's for sure.
So here's another idea, and this just occurred to me. And we are in discussion, so it's kind of okay. The motion's been made and seconded, Santos and Obert. You could encumber it to the TBA, and the TBA could manage that, but that would mean it leaves my management and goes to your management.
I didn't know that you could assign that to a different membership.
It's
Didn't know
not,
that you could do that.
Thompson Business Association is not a municipal body.
They'd be acting as a vendor for us or
Correct.
Okay, all right, yeah,
facility.
I did not know that. All right.
So do we have specific items that we would know we would expect for that $8,000? I mean, it's one thing to just throw $8,000 at TBA. It's if we throw it and say, here's what we'd like to see accomplished, this, and this. 4 projects, $8,000.
And it would go toward the construction of the village, is what we're.
Yeah. Dan,
So
what would you suggest as a contractor? What do you think needs to be done over there? Is like assigning 3,000 too little? Is 4,000 too little? Like, what's your financial position here?
Honestly, I've never looked at it that closely, never looked at it in the terms of, what it would take. The school's got $4,000 towards it right now, and that's supposed to, as far as I know, get those things completed.
Yeah,
I
so we could work on a 4th one with TBA if we wanted to.
I will say, I do not want to see a 4th one started unless the ones that are there are finished.
Yeah,
and
they
then-
gotta be finished.
Oh, there's
Over the
3
summer.
I was thinking there was only 2 there. There is 3 there, yeah.
There are
Yeah.
3, yeah.
And they won't get finished over the summer because we're relying on this. They won't get worked on until October.
Okay, so I'm confused on what we're talking about. If there's 4,000 already dedicated to fixing those up, why would we give more money?
Well, our original plan was to have 10. And we wouldn't give
Oh.
money to the.
So this would be
the.
this would be the reasoning, Brian. The encumbrance that exists to the school was a fix-it measure when Dave Eddy, who was the original vendor to whom it was encumbered, got so tied up with the Mason House, he could not deliver. And
Yeah.
Orla allowed me, and this was irregular, right? To switch the encumbrance because it was the same project to Thompson Public Schools because Mike Joyce wanted his kids to be involved, and the kids have done some work down there. But I have paid out a couple of invoices for materials down there and not seen it move forward, but I can't move that encumbrance from anybody else. I do not have the ability
Yeah.
to re-encumber it a second time because it was. I believe that's Lafredo in the background.
Yeah, okay, it's muted.
Okay. Oh, Santos, I just accidentally muted you too. So there is, and it's slightly less than 4,000 now. It's like 3,800, but regardless, I have to let those funds ride, but I do not expect the kids from the school to actually finish any of them at this point. I probably
Yeah.
expect them to finish putting the roof on, do some of the finish work, maybe do some painting, whatever. But to be quite frank, the difference in quality between the one that was built entirely by the kids and the 2 that were built by Dave is noticeable. even though the
Yeah.
first one that was built by Dave and the second one that was built by Dave, there is a difference in quality because he slapped the second one together somewhat in a rush because I was leaning on him to get one finished at that time and he accommodated, but you can tell the difference. So
Yeah.
if the choice is made to encumber more, it's saying you're going to bring a professional in to get it to the next point, which from my point of view is finishing the 3 there. And then whatever overage from might be left from that, I would suggest, and this would have to be worked out, that then it becomes a coordination between that professional and the kids, like maybe as like a work study thing with whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a higher risk encumbrance than the first option, which is the 65 main, but it is you guys and your fund. So it's your priorities.
Well, I wouldn't mind, I'll speak my mind here. I wouldn't mind like matching the 4,000 number that Dan just said, just to make sure that those things get done and then leave 4165 to 65. I'm okay with that too. This way Dan has his money and can do what he needs with it.
It's not Dan, it's the Thompson Business Association. Dan just becomes
Sorry, TBA,
the-
sorry.
the
TBA,
TBA
TBA,
manager.
sorry.
You know,
Yep,
I'm
TBA, yep.
I'm gonna say too, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, you know, my honest opinion of that 11th Village thing is it's not very good. So if I'm being 100% honest, I want to really don't put more money into it just to see it continue to do the same thing it's been doing. I don't know.
That's okay. That's why I wanted your input on this since, it kind of get dropped in the TBAs.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's tough to do it in such short notice too, because I just literally haven't thought
Yeah.
about it in that manner.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
I will say 65 Main is moving forward, guys. I'm about to launch roofing, demo abatement. That job is moving forward. So putting money towards that project will be utilized.
Mhm. And I like that project too, so.
All right, so I'll keep my motion as it stands.
Okay, so we have a motion to put the money toward 65 Main, toward what's her name? Somebody I can't.
Silver and
Yep, Silver,
Petrocelli.
Okay, that's
Yep.
Silver and Petrocelli. And we have a second by Charlie, right?
Yes. So you're still in discussion. The motion's made and
Yeah.
seconded.
And again,
Um,
I raised the comment that I'd like to know that there's a checklist of things that we expected to go, because money can disappear on projects like that so fast.
Yeah, and I have no problem when the money's being utilized, Charlie. Tira and I can come up with a list of stuff. I just can't do it right now.
And to your point, Charlie, we do have estimates from Silver Petrocelli for both construction administration and for a follow-up set of construction documents for the second and third floor. We have those estimates. This amount does not cover either one of them, right? So it still becomes dependent on me being successful in getting more grant funds. So in both cases, both of these projects have some risk that the fund is going to roll back into the general fund. But I would say the nature of the risk with Silver Petrocelli is lower. It's a clearer path.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Any more discussion? Anybody else have anything to say about it? So if not, we can go ahead and vote to encumber the 8165 to Silver Petrocelli. All right. All those in favor of encumbering the money to Silver Petrocelli?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, that does it. 8165. Cleaning up our budget for the year.
Okay, I will make that encumbrance, tomorrow in the office.
Thank you, Tara. Moving on to progress reports and grants, applications and updates. Tiara can fill us in.
Oh, it's my like my speed dating part, right? Where I have to
It
run
is.
it all.
I can't keep it straight, so you have to.
Well, I have a cheat sheet, at least when I'm on my laptop. So just going down in order in my grants folder. The congressional appropriation for 65 Main is the one that we've mostly been talking about. That's the 240,000. Brian and I went over, mostly Brian creating and then me just sort of tweaking, and had Marie post an RFP for the roof on 65 Main. So that is out to bid, open for bid now. We are closing bids as of the 30th. Brian, we have a supposed
Yep,
meet and
walk through
greet with,
tomorrow morning.
yeah, so
Yep.
so we'll be there at, what do we have, 10 in the morning? We're gonna be there, I think.
8 o'clock,
8 o'clock?
8 a.m.,
Oh, I'm glad I asked because I thought it was 10.
8
Awesome.
a.m.
I'll be there with bells on. So we have that. I asked Marie for an update because she can see how many people open it. I believe she said it was 8 opened it through the town website and 15 through the state. Maybe it was the other way around, with overlap of 2 vendors. So that is literally going to be moving forward. The next piece to bid is going to be the hazmat. Let's see. Citizens Institute for Rural Design was the technical assistance program. As we just discovered, we were not selected, which is why you had those funds to give out. The next grant I will start next month is to get the wayfinding signs done. That's a CONDOT community connectivity grant program. It's been open for months. I backburnered it while I was working on this big multi-million-dollar thing, but that's due, I want to say, the end of July, no earlier than mid-July. That'll be an easy one for me to throw together. And that's a 0 match. So with luck, we'll be successful with that as well and be able to get those signs done finally. The trails grants, the pair of related grants for the Great East Thompson Trainwreck Commemorative Interpretive Park. The acquisition of that small portion of the Butler's property is essentially moving forward somewhat slowly. Attorney Roberts is drafting a deed for the Butlers to look at, and Daniel did some additional survey work just to wrap that up so that Rich could write up that deed. And as soon as I have it, I'll send it to the Butlers. I do not have the contract yet for the second grant, which is construction. I could have that anytime between now and October. I would expect it closer to October. Let's see. What is next up? So the big one that I'm working on now, and which is due next Friday, is the Community Investment Fund. So just to reiterate, that's a $3.88 million ask for the reconstruction of the road and sidewalks of Main Street, to close the funding gap on the 65 Main project, both the Reno construction and the architectural and construction funding for floors 2 and 3, because they were not included in the first grant, and improvements to Swanson Park, as well as that little Veterans Memorial on that weird little island at the northern intersection of Route 12 and Main Street. So essentially it's closing the loop on improvements for the downtown Mill Main District. And the announcement date for that is supposed to be the 30th of September. So fingers crossed that the state will invest in the neighborhood. What else do we got here? Sidewalk grant for Riverside Drive is like 98% complete. contractors are coming back after September to do 2 more crosswalks. At the same time that they do the Blaine Road intersection, which is not a part of that grant, but the timing makes sense for them to do that. And the library roof is underway under the STEEP grant. Moving along nicely. What else do we have here? And then the last one is the USDA Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production Grant. That's the planning grant for 65 Main. Finally got my executed contract a couple of weeks ago. So we had our essentially our launch meeting with the project partners last week. We set a timeline for the first 4 months because we lost 2 months. USDA misplaced our signed contract for 2 months. We actually should have gotten that underway in April, but that's neither here nor there. I've established what the disbursement schedule is for that with USDA. So that's going to be chugging forward. I would expect that the public workshop process for the programming for the center is going to launch in October. So it's going to be a busy time coming up. Those are my grants.
Good job. Does anybody have any questions for Tara regarding the grants?
You know, I
No.
love questions.
I am wondering if the scope of the project around the Veterans Memorial was at Swanson Park. And one of the reasons I'm asking is because between that site, well, near that site is the West Thompson Dam, and there's that canal or still mill race. The mill race that has a lot of weeds and stuff growing up around it, but I think it's town property. So I'm kind of curious about getting that on a list of to do if we don't do it as part of this, that we continue to see how we can spruce up the appearance of that whole neighborhood.
You said
Beautiful
West
work.
Thompson Dam, but I assume you meant North Grosvenor Pond
You're
Dam?
correct, I did.
Yeah.
You're that's the one that I meant, and that's going to be a big issue of topic of discussion because of the deteriorated condition of it and the timeline for getting it repaired. The people who own it seem to want to wait until they've sold off all their lots, but then they wouldn't have any assets to leverage against them actually repairing it.
I'm not sure where you're getting that information, Charlie. There is a private owner who does have an engineering firm engaged on it.
Yes, I know, and he's been stalling, and he has been, just putting it off and off and off. And hey, I've been wrong before, but this is going to be a hot topic issue. It's the most high-risk dam in Thompson. It is failing. It does need to be repaired or removed, but the people that are developing the mill saw that as an asset. And if we remove it, then that's gone. The whole area down there, to me, has been neglected for way too long. And now that we're starting to make some progress, I'm impatient to make more.
I'm not super sure what the question is there. Are you suggesting that I add that to the scope of the grant? I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd have no way over the next 10 days to.
Then let's make sure we put it on a to-do list, because I tried to raise the question before, but I must have, as I inevitably do, phrased it in a way that not everybody understood me. It's an area, it's an asset that's been neglected. And I'd like to see us put it on our let's get this fixed list. There's another thing, though, that's now that the state has announced monies for the airline trail, we've got mostly everything we need for the train wreck park lined up. And I think we need to start looking at other places along that airline trail, especially where there's graffiti. I tried to send out a photograph yesterday of a similar looking area, or it could look similar with overpass and old railroad memorabilia that they have. Bigger metropolitan area, bigger money to work with, and it's on the actual East Coast Greenway. So the state and federal money are pumping a lot into that. But we've got visitors coming in. We've got this project coming along. And just as we did for the train wreck park area, it requires people with a vision for the town and for these projects to step forward and put them on the to-do list.
We have them on, we have Charlie's comment. Any other comments regarding the grants? Okay. Website notes. I just had been noticing, I did do a new business of the year form to get posted. I sent that to Heather.
That is in process, Brian. I did send it to the office to get that uploaded. It's actually in 2 places on the website, so I've asked them to upload both.
Yeah, well, I noticed on the website, and you know, what we do is when we notice things, on one place, we have the 2021 form up. And in another place, I saw the 2022 form.
You are correct.
Okay. And another thing I noted, and I mentioned this to Heather also, I could nowhere could I find the date for Community Day.
I checked that date. It is correct.
Yeah, but it
It's
wasn't.
actually in the recreation minutes, I believe, of last month.
Okay. Because I know somebody had talked about it, so I thought it was September 30th. But, you know, on a whim, I was looking for it to verify, and it wasn't posted on any calendar, any posting. You know, I imagine it'll get there, but it probably should be posted now on our community calendars.
Not my, I would ask Renee, or I'm not sure who else is doing the calendars.
Yeah, I would probably talk to Renee. Like I said, we bring this stuff up, things that we notice on the website that could use attention. That's all. It's not to pin anybody down, or it's just to note things and possibly make them better. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else noticed anything that could be corrected or updated on the website or sites. All right, next is 11th Village Progress, and I don't know of any.
No, I think we've discussed that for the evening at least.
Yeah, I didn't even know that they used a little bit of the 4,200. Because I haven't seen or heard of any progress.
Hey, I know Sandy emailed Mike right before the last TBA meeting last week. And there's still been no reply to that email.
Okay,
I do think Mike is easier to reach by text, and I meant to send his number to Sandy, but of course I had nothing to prompt me to do that either, so that got by me.
yeah, and I can do that.
Yeah, yes, you know, if you could reach back out to Mike via text and just see, you know, because I definitely signed a requisition sheet for some shingling and stuff, and I do not believe it was ever installed.
Yeah, I meant to take a ride down there yesterday or today, and I actually got caught working. Not something that's in my current plan. But okay, yeah, I'll let you know what happens. Next up is a train wreck park progress. And we did touch on that some. We haven't had any recent work on the park.
No, there won't be any work on construction until I get that contract signed. Theoretically, we could start and I could start spending money from the match funds, but that makes me super nervous because until the contract is signed, the only funds we could spend are match funds. So if we get an invoice for a contractor that goes over, then we can't get reimbursed for it. So we're going to get the legal and acquisition done. We're going to get the contract signed. As soon as the contract is signed on grant number 2, then that's implementation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
It pays to be methodical.
we had agreed to keep it on the agenda, so it doesn't get dropped. That's all.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie.
After it's signed, are you the one, Tara, who will contact the people to do tree work or each of the steps, or who's the project manager?
I'm the project manager. So because it's a state grant, that has to go out to bid for each component, just like any other grant. So we do have estimates from local guys, but they will have to bid competitively, even the guys who gave us the estimates. That's just the way those things work. But the local guys are almost certainly going to be the lowest cost vendors.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we have bicycling and upcoming events. The upcoming event I have is we have concerts in the park coming up on this weekend, the Pulaski weekend. And upcoming, I did note Community Day, September 30th. What do you have, Charlie?
There aren't any bicycling events that I know of. The next event that will be coming through town will be the Hartford Marathon in August. And the condition of the airline trail, I don't know what the state's timeline is. Usually, I see for projects like this, there's a multi-page plan of action with drawings and measurements and all sorts of stuff. I haven't seen a copy of any of that. All the decisions apparently were made either by NECOG or DEEP or maybe the task force, but they were made without my having any knowledge about the meetings, even though I'd volunteered to try to serve in that, and I have experience. So I don't know what's supposed to be done. I know we're supposed to be getting a grant for the airline trail. I don't know what percentage of that is coming to Thompson. Tara, do you know? Because as far as I've been able to find out, there's no details available yet.
A percentage of what, Charlie?
The grant that was, or the monies that were given by, allocated by Ned Lamont a month and a half ago. And I think it calls for $9 million on the airline trail. Though I won't certainly bet anything that I'm afraid to lose on that. But a large sum of money has been allocated and set aside by the governor's office for trail production and development. And the airline trail has a line item on there. I don't know how they came up with those numbers. NECOG is supposed to be the coordinator on this, but NECOG, I don't think NECOG covers the whole 12 towns. So I don't know. And
yeah, they definitely do not. Let me see if I can find something online quickly, because I'm not sure what that is. So let's see, Lamont Trails funding.
You'll probably find it linked directly with the airline trail.
Okay, May 15th, press release from Governor Lamont announces $9 million in state grants to plan, build, expand, and improve 50 recreational trails. I think that is the announcement that our grant was a part of, but let me scroll further down. Yeah, it is. That includes the money that was given to Thompson.
But the money that was given to Thompson was the ARPA grant.
No, no, the
What
money
did
that's
that
in
money do? We were supposed to
That's-
have $250,000
we
to
do.
begin to plan the train wreck park. Where did that go?
We do. It's our match funding on the grant that we received. That grant had a match requirement. So that
Okay.
154, we've spent, it was 154 total, I think. 4,000 of it has been spent on the first grant because that was the matching portion for the design, legal and acquisition. So now we're dipping into the state funding from the first grant. The second grant, the remaining 150 or whatever it was, is the match funding against the construction that's starting. So that press release for that 9 million is the announcement for all of the awardees on that grant program. I
And how
believe
much is coming into Thompson?
$457,500, which I believe was the second highest grant.
Well, again, I don't know, have any idea what they intend to buy with that. Nor did they have to call me up and tell me. But I've been on the committee for a purpose, and I've been pushing this stuff since even before they announced that the airline trail was 12-town task force.
So there was an additional 75,000 given specifically for the airline trail to RC&D, essentially to create a stewardship organization, and we'll be a part of that. So that is the only other. I'm just scrolling through to see if I see any other specific to the airline trail, and I don't particularly, but there's a lot of recipients here.
Well, part of why I was raising the whole question is because we're going to have probably a couple thousand people running the Hartford Marathon through. And the section underneath Route 200, I haven't looked at it lately, but it had some erosion problems. Got the nice job done on Route 200. There's no sidewalks available. And, there's a lot of things that can and should be considered. And somebody who lives in Hartford isn't going to look at them the same way that we will.
No, that's why they do it in grant funding. Putnam and East Hampton also got airline trail money in that grant round. We applied for what we applied for. We applied for money to do the train wreck park project, and we were successful. When it opens up again, if we've made enough progress on that, we'll have the opportunity to apply for a next project. The difference being there won't be any match funding. So that's going to be a little iffy, right? Our match funding was the stuff dedicated to train wreck park out of ARPA. The deep grants require a 20% match.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know of any other pending or imminent events that will that the people in this commission want to know about right now.
Okay. The last item on the agenda is the marketing of Main Street update, and we have talked about that some.
Well, congratulations, it made it into the budget. So once the fiscal year rolls, what I would recommend about that is starting to put together your RFP for the consultant. We have our quote, which came from Quinn and Harry. So and we have the prior marketing, the one that did the branding, we can adapt that to the current purpose. It's $10,000, so it must be bid. You want to bid it anyway. You want to see more than one estimate come back, but I will certainly send it to Quinn and Harry, and I'll send it to Sullivan and Lashane. But I would say put that on your July meeting agenda as a discussion point for the RFP, to start developing the RFP for the marketing campaign.
Okay. making a note.
Thank you to all of you who went out and voted in the last one, because if the last one had not passed, there would, we would be talking about something very different today.
Yeah,
Is it appropriate for this commission to think in terms of how we can stir up a vote to get the budget passed on the first time? How we can reach people? Is that appropriate? I mean, it's politics, but
yeah, beyond discussion, I don't know that it would be appropriate for us to actually do anything.
I don't know. I like those signs that I'm seeing about stopping the neglect and voting yes. And I really think that the whole concept of stopping the neglect is one that plays well with economic development. You can't have blight all around the town and brownfields projects that nobody can develop and expect that we're going to have a positive attitude for people to come in and invest.
It's true.
So I want to stop the neglect. That's part of what I was saying a few minutes ago. I want, look at that mill race, and I think, well, this could really look nice here, but it's all weeds, poison
And
ivy.
we are heading that way. I mean, we focused on aesthetics even when we looked at Riverside Drive, since it's essentially our main street. And now we're focusing on Main Street itself. How does it look to people? It doesn't look like any main street that I know of. So we are focusing that way, Charlie. So you're right. Things like that, people notice.
I know we have new board of directors at the Village Improvement Society up here on the hill. And there's talk now about planting trees, which goes in along with part of what we were looking at on Main Street. And other issues that we don't even know about yet, but it requires us to do it. We can't expect people from out of the area to be sympathetic enough to come in and help us to realize our vision.
Well, I think you're right, Charlie, and I think those.
I don't think we've
Go ahead.
successfully articulated or updated our vision. Yeah, okay, we're a green growing community. Yeah, okay, we're outdoor recreation. Yeah, okay, but what? What next? And maybe we need to call back the branding committee one more time and update things, because plans don't come forward by accident. Things like this happen because of a dedicated, continuous push.
But Charlie, look at what we have been doing. I mean, without the pushing, like you said, we wouldn't have the developing of Trainwreck Park or 65 Main or cleaning up of Main Street. It may not be happening fast enough for you, but you can't say we're not showing some results.
Well, no, I doubt. I'm not saying we're not showing results. I'm saying that we could find ourselves feeling comfortable with what we've got and lose momentum.
Well, the marketing campaign is, I think, essentially the next step in what you're suggesting, Charlie, which is, how do we take what we have done, both in terms of the branding and identity documents and the physical improvements and public initiatives, and package that and get that out into the hands of the people who will invest. And some of those people are going to be smaller and local, and some of those people might be more mid-sized, like the guy coming in to do St. Joseph's School. I mean, we think of him as a big developer. Locally, he would be big, but he's really a mid-sized developer, but has already been very supportive, right? He's writing a letter of support for my grant. He's coming in and doing adaptive reuse of a building that otherwise was going to sit vacant for however long. I mean, those are the things. They just don't move quickly. Superior Bakery, the sale is grinding along slowly. There's some complications there because of missing records of an oil tank coming out of the ground, as far as I understand, but he's working on that, right? He's paying to have the investigation done. That's delaying the purchase and sale being finalized. You know, it's like everything else, Charlie. There's all kinds of people who come and say, you're not doing anything, you're not doing anything. They say that because they can't see what's going on in the background. But a lot of that work has to stay in the background. Some of it is sensitive. Some of it is tentative until it's not tentative anymore. And to, you know, it's like anything else. The sausage gets made, however it gets made. You wouldn't want to eat it if you saw what went into the grinder.
I have seen those kinds of places.
A lot of it comes down
You're right.
to.
No, I'm not saying that, you know, I am seeing that things are getting done, but I'm also seeing that I'm getting older and I just don't think I'm going to be around to see any significant progress. I don't know.
And that may be
Impatient.
true.
Impatient. I'm just getting impatient. I'm so tired of things taking so long.
Well, if there is one thing because I'm not naturally patient either, Charlie, but what I have learned in my 4 years of working for municipal government, which is the limit of my municipal government experience, is nothing takes less than 2 years. Even the simplest things take 2 years. So if they're not simple, you can expect that they'll take longer than that. I mean, these processes just go slowly. It takes me months to get a grant contract executed. Right. And then you have to go through steps to make sure that you're following procedures to bid out on jobs and report on it properly. And it's frustrating, but those things are designed for accountability. Right. Accountability is the enemy of efficiency in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily progress, but yeah, we could solve all the problems of the town in the next 5 minutes. But as soon as we need a penny of tax dollars, it's going to take at least 2 years of study to figure out what we have to study to get things in order so that we can put together the blue ribbon panel. It's just crazy.
Oh, yeah, and you know, we've been talking about 929 since what, 2011. The best we could do is, I'm always running into people at the transfer station and at repair shop. Yeah, what's going on with that mill and what are you doing in town? Why are we
Oh,
spending?
I'm sorry. I knew I skipped one in the grants rundown.
Oh, did I remind you of something?
Yeah, just now. So the documentation requirements on that grant are flippin' insane. Do you guys hear all that background noise, or is that just me?
I hear a little, but I don't know what you're hearing.
Okay. All right. So never mind. Yeah, the documentation requirements on that are insane. And as we know, the actual owner of the mill is not the easiest person to get in contact with. But our
Right.
attorney and the developer's attorney had a con call to coordinate on documentation, not last Friday, but the Friday afterwards. I followed up with them again within the last day or so. There are a certain number of documents that the actual existing owner needs to sign. The developer's attorney is working on that. We do have essentially a letter of agreement from the current owner that he will sign whatever we put in front of him. But that doesn't make it any easier to get in touch with him. But I believe through attorneys that becomes a little easier. So I do actually think we're closing in on an executed contract for that project, but I am done giving time estimates on it because it's been a year and a half since we were awarded that grant. So, you know, I thought it was going to be last summer. We were going to be starting to dig out contamination. It's apparently not going to be this summer either. But I am hopeful that this summer we'll get the contract.
Yeah, and my point was, a lot of people really don't know what's going on. Thus the campaign to inform people. And I don't mind answering questions to let them know, yes, there's something in the works. And they always ask, why do we spend this money on whatever? And I tell them, well, you know, our planner is getting grant after grant, and it really, some of these things don't cost the taxpayers anything. And people just don't know that. It makes them feel a little bit better to know something is going on, and we as a group can fill people in when they ask.
But that's part of what I think Tira said about, and we've also talked about, we are not as good at documenting our successes as we should be.
Yeah,
Certainly
I
not
always
as
say
good as
that.
we could be. So all the things that have been done, and to your point, Brian, unless people are involved in these meetings through the town hall, they don't have any idea. So how do
Right.
we, as marketing, that's our next step. How do we build a list and get it out there so people can see it everywhere they look?
Yeah. And part of our interns will be part of that. You know, better communication kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, we always need more work. We don't utilize our website enough, the town website. People really would look there. They don't have to look in too many places. But anyway, not any more we can do with that tonight, but you're right. It's part of next steps, Charlie. Next, we have.
If all we can do now is start thinking about it, at least we're thinking about it and we're talking about it. Okay.
Yep, I agree. For the comments by commission members, I wanted to remind people, I sent you the business of the year form. It will be posted. We'll be able to tell people that it's posted. Remember the information we need to make a decision. We want to know if they contribute to the community, how long they've been in business, some things that will help us weigh this out, not just, oh, they had a nice waiter. I know I say this every year, but just because they have a friendly face there doesn't mean that they're doing anything beyond just good business. And there's one other criteria that we're going to look at, and I'll fill you in July. It's something that's a little more delicate, so I don't want to shoot my mouth off right this minute. But keep the business of the year in mind, so maybe we'll have some, we won't be scraping to get candidates by our September meeting. Do we have any more comments or comments? Yeah.
I just noticed that you put the contact information in here. And,
Yeah.
I just got a new phone number. This phone number is been dedicated just to my business now. So I have a new.
And I got that. Yes, Dan, I got that and I didn't change it on the contact. I'll fix that I sent out the new contact information to include Lynn and Renee. Actually, Renee wasn't on the last one. So I'll fix that and resend it, Dan. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Thank you. Well, thanks for bringing it up. I thought I was doing something good. I always forget something.
Great.
All right.
Joe, do you have something? You know?
I said you were doing great.
Oh, yeah. People who don't want my job, I'll say that, Joe. But thank you.
I will briefly mention again, related to the mill, as the attorneys and the other grant partners and Amy and I were emailing back and forth, we are likely to be doing another one of those public engagement events in July. I think we're tentatively looking at July 20th, which would be the day after the July meeting here. That is not, it's not set in stone yet. We've got to see if the developer himself is available that day, but that's a day when the rest of the partners are all available. So we are thinking it's about time for an update.
Yeah. Okay, that's good news. At least we're thinking about that. Yeah, I mean, if we have no more comments, we can, our next meeting is July 19th. And I'll add that to the agenda for I can't say it, developing an RFP for the marketing campaign.
Bueno.
65 Main. If anybody else has any suggestions in the meantime for agenda, let me know. Lynn, if you have any questions or issues, don't be afraid to call, and I'm sure Heather will give you a hand to get this all smoothly done.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn, I have
So,
sent
yeah.
you a few master things, just so you know, and let me know. My cell phone number is on the emails.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you for
Thank you, Heather.
the
You've done
work.
a fine job with us.
Yep, you have. Just so you know, we appreciate you, and we appreciate Lynn for stepping up too. So, yeah, I mean, if we're all set, I'd like to adjourn at 7:42.
Move to adjourn. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.